Tonight we're taking a gentle journey back to medieval times to explore something surprisingly fascinating: hygiene. If you're here to learn while you drift off, you've come to the right place. So get comfortable, close your eyes, and let's discover what daily cleanliness really looked like in the Middle Ages. You might be surprised by what you learn. Contrary to popular belief, medieval people were not the unwashed masses we often imagine. This misconception has persisted for centuries, but historical evidence tells a very different story. Medieval Europeans actually valued cleanliness quite highly, almost in a religious way. They understood that being clean was important for both physical and spiritual health. The idea that they rarely bathed is largely a myth that arose from later historical periods. In fact, medieval society could be considered a bathing culture, much like Japan is today. Public bathhouses were common in most European towns and cities. These weren't just places to get clean. They were social centers where people gathered, ate meals, and conducted business. The wealthy would often have private bathing chambers in their homes, while common folk relied on public facilities. Bathhouses were so popular that by the 15th century, eating and bathing at these establishments was as common as going out to a restaurant would become 4 centuries later. Archaeological evidence from medieval sites consistently shows bathing areas, drainage systems, and even specialized soap-making facilities. Medieval people clearly cared about hygiene. They just approached it differently than we do today. Medieval bathing was quite an elaborate affair. The process began with heating water, lots of it. Large wooden tubs were filled with warm water, often scented with herbs like rosemary, lavender, or mint. These herbs weren't just for fragrance. They were believed to have medicinal properties. The wealthy would bathe in wooden tubs lined with cloth to prevent splinters. These tubs were often large enough for multiple people, and it was common for couples or families to bathe together. Privacy, as we understand it today, was a luxury few could afford. Soap existed, though it was quite different from modern soap. Medieval soap was made from animal fats mixed with ash or lye, creating a harsh but effective cleaning agent. By the 12th century, soap making had become a thriving industry, with different regions developing their own specialized recipes. For those who couldn't afford frequent full baths, daily washing of hands, face, and feet was standard practice. This was often done with a basin of water and rough cloth. Medieval people understood that clean hands were essential for eating and handling food. Interestingly, medieval bathing wasn't just about cleanliness. It was also about balancing the body's humors. Medieval medicine believed that health depended on balancing four bodily fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Bathing, along with sweating and bloodletting, was thought to help maintain this balance. The bathhouse experience was quite social. People would spend hours soaking, talking, and even conducting business. Some bathhouses served meals, and it wasn't uncommon to see people eating while relaxing in the warm water. What medieval people wore played a crucial role in their hygiene practices. The key was layering, and regularly changing the layers that touched their skin directly. Everyone, regardless of social class, had access to linen or hemp undergarments. These natural fibers were excellent at absorbing sweat and body oils. The wealthy might have had multiple sets of undergarments, allowing them to change frequently, while the poor might have had only one or two sets. The practice was simple but effective. Outer garments like tunics, gowns, and cloaks were worn repeatedly, but the underlayers were washed and changed regularly. This kept the expensive outer clothing clean, while managing body odor through the frequently washed undergarments. Washing clothes was a significant undertaking. Water had to be heated, soap prepared, and the actual washing done by hand. Clothes were often washed in streams or rivers, using stones to help scrub away dirt and stains. The entire process could take an entire day. Wealthy households employed laundresses, whose sole job was maintaining the cleanliness of clothing and linens. These women were skilled professionals who knew how to remove different types of stains and how to properly care for various fabrics. The concept of having a clean outfit for special occasions was well established. People would save their best, cleanest clothes for church, festivals, or important meetings. This practice reinforced the social importance of appearing clean and well-groomed. Perhaps no aspect of medieval hygiene is more misunderstood than waste disposal. Medieval people were acutely aware of the problems caused by human waste and developed sophisticated systems to deal with it. In castles and wealthy homes, toilets were called garderobes, literally meaning to guard the robes. These were small chambers built into the castle walls, often projecting out on stone brackets called corbels. The waste would fall down a shaft and into the castle moat, or better yet, directly into a flowing river. The placement of these toilets was carefully considered. They were typically located away from kitchens and living areas, often in remote corners of the castle or in separate towers. Some castles even had multiple floors of toilets, all connected to the same waste shaft. Urban areas faced different challenges. In medieval towns, residents were actually responsible for keeping the streets in front of their homes clean. There were strict laws about waste disposal, and fines for violating these rules could be severe. People could not simply throw waste out their windows, despite what popular culture suggests. Cities developed sophisticated waste management systems. Public latrines were built over streams or rivers, allowing waste to be carried away naturally. When this wasn't possible, waste was collected in cesspits that were regularly emptied by professional waste collectors called gong farmers. These gong farmers worked at night collecting human waste and selling it to farmers as fertilizer. This created a complete waste management cycle. Human waste became agricultural fertilizer, which helped grow food, which fed people, completing the circle. Some medieval toilets were quite advanced. Later in the period, some castles installed toilets with running water beneath them, creating an early form of flush toilet. These were luxury items, but they show that medieval people were constantly working to improve their sanitation systems. The dangers of medieval toilets were real. There are recorded cases of people falling into latrine shafts and drowning. Wooden seats could collapse, and gases from decomposing waste occasionally caused suffocation. In 1183, a German nobleman died when his wooden toilet seat gave way. Medieval people cared deeply about dental hygiene, though their methods were quite different from ours. They used a variety of tools and techniques to keep their teeth clean and their breath fresh. The most common tooth cleaning tool was a small stick, often made from oak, ash, or other hardwoods. These were chewed at one end to create a brush-like texture, then used to scrub the teeth. This method was surprisingly effective at removing plaque and food particles. For those who could afford it, tooth powder was available. These powders were made from various ingredients, including crushed bones, oyster shells, and even ground pearls. While abrasive by modern standards, these powders did help remove stains and freshen breath. Breath freshening was important in medieval society. People chewed herbs like mint, parsley, and fennel to improve their breath. Cloves were particularly prized for their ability to numb tooth pain and provide a pleasant scent. Hair care was another important aspect of medieval grooming. Both men and women washed their hair regularly, though the frequency varied by social class. They used a variety of natural shampoos made from herbs, eggs, and even fermented beverages. Combs were essential tools made from wood, bone, or horn. The wealthy owned ornate combs decorated with precious metals and jewels. Regular combing wasn't just about appearance, it helped remove lice and other parasites that were common in medieval times. Shaving was common among medieval men, though styles varied by region and time period. Barbers were skilled professionals who not only cut hair and shaved beards, but also performed basic medical procedures like bloodletting and tooth extraction. Women's grooming routines were equally elaborate. They used a variety of cosmetics made from natural ingredients. Pale skin was considered beautiful, so women used powders made from lead, unknowingly poisoning themselves, or safer alternatives like rice powder. In medieval society, cleanliness was closely tied to social status and moral character. Being clean wasn't just about personal comfort. It was about showing respect for others and demonstrating your place in society. The church promoted cleanliness as a form of spiritual purity, with religious texts emphasizing the importance of washing before prayer. Hospitality customs reinforced these practices. Guests were always offered water to wash their hands and face upon arrival. Different social classes had varying capabilities, with the wealthy affording private baths and servants, while the poor maintained basic washing standards. Trade guilds even had specific hygiene requirements for their members, showing that medieval people understood the connection between cleanliness and health, even adapting their practices seasonally when winter made bathing more challenging. And so we see that medieval hygiene was far more sophisticated than we often imagine. These people, living centuries ago, developed creative solutions to maintain cleanliness within the constraints of their time and technology. Far from being the unwashed masses of popular imagination, medieval people valued cleanliness, developed elaborate bathing rituals, and created waste management systems that would serve as the foundation for modern sanitation. As you drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps you'll dream of warm, herb-scented baths in wooden tubs, of bustling medieval bathhouses where people gathered to socialize and relax, and of a time when cleanliness was truly next to godliness. Thank you for joining me on this journey through medieval hygiene, sweet dreams, and remember, history is always more fascinating than fiction.